They called Lance Corporal Iris Calloway a liability before she even touched her rifle. The lads in 3 Para said having a woman on overwatch was like bringing a toy gun to a real fight. But in the mountains of Helmand Province, when 16 British soldiers were pinned down by enemy fire, and every second meant another life slipping away, Iris would take 11 shots that would rewrite everything her team believed about who belongs behind a scope. Iris Calloway was 27 years old when she joined 3rd Battalion. Parachute Regiment as their newest sniper, she stood 5'6", with steady hands and eyes that could track a sparrow at 400 meters. Most people who met her thought she looked like someone who taught primary school or worked in a bookshop. Not someone who could put a round through a target the size of a dinner plate from 1,000 yards away. She grew up in the Yorkshire Dales, where her father ran a shooting school for competitive marksmen. By age 12, Iris could outshoot men twice her size at national competitions. Her dad, a former Royal Marine, taught her that breathing was everything. Control your breath, control your heartbeat, control the shot. She joined the army at 22, passed selection, and earned her place as a qualified sniper. But earning respect was different from earning a qualification. The barracks in Colchester felt cold that autumn. Iris reported for duty knowing her reputation had arrived before she did. The first woman sniper in 3 Para. The lads had opinions about that. Iris's father, Graham Calloway, had been a scout sniper in the Royal Marines before an injury ended his career. He poured everything he knew into his daughter, not because he wanted to live through her, but because he saw something in Iris that most people missed, a stillness. A patience that most trained soldiers never developed. She spent her childhood learning windage calculations before she learned algebra. Her father taught her to read the landscape, to feel the temperature drop that meant a wind shift, to understand that sniping was not about violence, but about absolute control. While other girls her age were at birthday parties, Iris was lying in muddy fields for 6 hours, learning to become invisible. Her mother worried. She wanted Iris to have a normal life, whatever that meant. But Iris knew from age 15 what she wanted. She wanted to serve. She wanted to be excellent at something that mattered. When she told her parents she was joining the army, her father nodded once. Her mother cried but did not argue. Iris passed basic training at the top of her class. She volunteered for sniper selection knowing it would be hell. The instructors pushed her harder than anyone else, waiting for her to quit. She never did. On graduation day, her father stood in the audience with tears in his eyes. He knew what she had endured to get there. If you're finding this story powerful, please subscribe. We share untold veteran stories like this every week, and your support helps us honor those who served. Iris arrived at 3 Para and immediately felt the weight of doubt. The men were not openly hostile. They were worse. They were politely dismissive. Sergeant Dylan Trench was the worst of them. He was 34, a career paratrooper with 3 tours under his belt and a chest full of commendations. He made it clear from day one that he thought Iris was a political statement, not a soldier. During her first briefing, Trench asked her how much her rifle weighed. She told him. He nodded slowly, then asked if she needed help carrying it. The room went quiet. A few men looked away. No one said anything. In training exercises, Trench assigned her positions, but never trusted her calls. When she reported enemy movement during a simulation, he double-checked with another sniper before acting. When she suggested an alternative overwatch position that provided better sight lines, he ignored her completely and stuck with the standard setup. One afternoon, during a live fire exercise, Iris made 3 consecutive shots at 900 meters, all center mass. Trench walked over, examined the target and said it was decent shooting for controlled conditions. Then he added that combat was different, that she would not have the luxury of time and comfort when rounds were coming back at her. Iris said nothing. She cleaned her rifle and kept her face neutral. But inside something hardened. She had spent her entire life proving herself. She thought it would end once she earned the qualification. She was wrong. To these men, she would always be a liability until she proved otherwise in a way they could not dismiss. That night, Iris lay in her bunk and stared at the ceiling. She thought about quitting, not because she doubted herself, but because she was tired. Tired of being the exception. Tired of every achievement being treated as a surprise instead of a confirmation. She remembered her father's words the day she left for basic training. He told her that respect was not given, it was demonstrated. He said she would face men who believed she did not belong, and that words would never change their minds. Only performance would. Iris closed her eyes and thought about the weight of her rifle. The L115A3 long-range rifle, 15 pounds fully loaded. She had carried it through selection, through qualification, through every exercise and drill. It had become an extension of her body. She knew its balance, its trigger pull, its rhythm. She thought about the stillness her father taught her, the way he used to say that fear was just noise, and noise could be silenced with breath control. She thought about lying in the mud as a teenager, waiting for a target to appear, learning that patience was the deadliest weapon. Iris made a decision that night. She would not quit. She would not argue. She would simply wait for the moment when her skills mattered more than their opinions. That moment would come. It always did in combat. And when it came, she would be ready. 2 months later, 3 para deployed to Helmand province. The landscape was unforgiving. Brown mountains, dry riverbeds, and villages where danger hid behind every compound wall. Iris was assigned to a patrol base in the Sangin Valley, one of the most hostile areas in Afghanistan. The missions were relentless. Patrols, overwatch, clearing operations. Iris performed her role without complaint. She took her position, made her observations, and provided cover. But Trench still did not trust her judgment. During one mission, Iris spotted movement on a ridgeline 800 meters out. She reported it immediately. Trench checked with another sniper, who had a partially obscured view. The other sniper said he could not confirm. Trench told Iris to keep watching, but did not adjust the patrol route. 30 minutes later, the patrol took small arms fire from that exact position. No one was hit, but it was close. Trench never mentioned it. Iris said nothing. The tension grew. The men respected her marksmanship on the range, but combat was different. Combat required trust, and trust required belief. They did not believe a woman could perform under the kind of pressure that made experienced soldiers freeze. Then came the mission that changed everything. Intelligence reported a high-value target in a compound near the village of Pute. The plan was simple. A 16-man patrol would move in, clear the compound, and extract. Iris would provide overwatch from a position 900 meters out on a nearby hill. Standard operation, but nothing in Helmand was ever standard. The patrol moved into the village at dawn. Iris was already in position. Her rifle rested on a low stone wall, her scope scanning the compound. The air was cold and still. Perfect conditions. Then everything went wrong. The patrol triggered an ambush. Insurgents opened fire from 3 positions simultaneously. The patrol went to ground, pinned behind a low wall with no cover and no way to move. Radio chatter exploded. Men were shouting. Someone was hit. Trench's voice came over the radio, tight and controlled. They needed fire support immediately. The insurgents were in elevated positions. The patrol could not move without being cut down. Iris switched to combat breathing. In through the nose, out through the mouth. Her heart rate dropped. The noise faded. She scanned the area and identified the first shooter. A man in a second-story window, partially concealed behind a curtain. Distance 920 meters. Wind 3 kilometers per hour left to right. She made the adjustment. Exhaled halfway. Squeezed the trigger. The round hit center mass. The shooter dropped. She moved to the second target. A man on a rooftop, firing an automatic weapon down at the patrol. Distance 870 meters. Elevated position. She adjusted for the angle, controlled her breath, and fired. The shooter collapsed. The third target was the hardest. A man behind a compound wall with only his head and shoulder visible. Distance 1,040 meters. The wind had shifted. She could feel it on her face, a slight increase in speed. She adjusted, steadied her breathing, and took the shot. The insurgent fell backward. In under 2 minutes, Iris had eliminated 3 threats that had an entire patrol pinned down. The radio chatter changed. Trench's voice came through, calm now. They were moving. They were clear. Iris stayed in position, scanning for additional threats. Her hands were steady. Her breathing was controlled. This was what her father had trained her for. Not the shooting. The stillness under pressure. When the patrol returned to base, Trench found Iris cleaning her rifle. He stood there for a long moment, not saying anything. Then he nodded once and told her that her shooting had saved lives. He did not apologize for doubting her. Men like Trench did not apologize, but his tone had changed. The dismissiveness was gone. Over the next weeks, something shifted in the unit. The men started asking Iris for her assessment during briefings. Trench assigned her the most critical Overwatch positions. When new soldiers arrived and made comments about having a woman sniper, the veterans shut them down immediately. They had seen what Iris could do when it mattered. One evening, Iris sat outside the barracks and called her father. She told him about the mission. He listened quietly, then said he was proud of her. Not because of the shots she made, but because she had stayed patient. She had waited for the moment when her skills spoke louder than their doubts. Iris returned to the UK after her deployment with a commendation for valor. She continued serving with 3 para, eventually training new snipers. Some of them were women. She made sure they understood that respect was earned through performance, not arguments. She taught them what her father taught her. Control your breath. Control your heart. Control the shot. Years later, Iris would leave the army and work with her father at his shooting school. She never talked much about her service, but the men who served with her in Helmand never forgot. They told the story of the day a woman sniper made 11 shots that saved 16 lives. Trench, who retired a few years after Iris, still keeps a photo from that deployment. Iris is in the background, rifle in hand, face calm. He tells people she was the best sniper he ever worked with. No qualifications, no exceptions, just the truth.